Well, hello and welcome everyone to today's Wixcorp webinar, where today we'll be discussing price transparency. My name is Jeff Wixom, and I'm our Chief Experience Officer, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you've taken some time out of your busy day today to be with us. In just a moment, I'll turn the time over to my brother Eric, who's our Chief Executive Officer. He'll give you a quick overview of who we are as a company and what we do around here, plus a little bit of background on the price transparency rule requirements. And we'll walk you through how the price estimator that we've developed meets those requirements. And note as we're going through this that we'll have time to answer questions at the end. You can submit questions live and make comments all along the way. And we'll address them, all the questions that come through before the end. So with that, I will turn the time over to Eric.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Jeff. And again, welcome everybody. We're grateful that you took the time to spend a little bit of time with us today to talk about price transparency. Just to kind of kick things off and introduce myself and Wixcorp. So Wixcorp is a patient engagement and experience company. Our goal is to be that connective tissue between healthcare providers and their patients. So everything from patient billing to an estimator to lots of stuff in between. We can talk about that maybe a little bit more in a minute, but Wixcorp is founded on that kind of core principle of understanding where's the consumer marketplace today and where is healthcare today, and what do we need to do to kind of bridge that gap to make sure that patients are having an enjoyable experience whenever and however they have to interact and engage with you. We're based out of Salt Lake City and have lots of folks all over the U.S. helping us out with this. So just a little bit about some of the solutions we provide. So we have a kind of a core platform called RED. It's Latin for payment, but it's kind of that patient financial experience engine. And the goal of that, trying to engage the consumer marketplace and bring them in, and the tools that are necessary to do that are everything from the price estimator and online schedule requests, which is what we'll be talking about today. But then lots around text communications, referral management, clinical screeners, and RED patient billing is kind of our core platform, everything from payment plans to quick pays to text to pay and everything in between. But today we're going to be focusing primarily on the price estimator and online schedule requests. I will note that those items do not require the full suite of services that we offer within RED. Those are standalone platforms that you're able to utilize off on their own. So as we talk about price estimation and the need for it, really it comes from that price transparency rule. So to put some context around our conversation today and just to make sure we're all kind of on the same page about requirements there, just a quick overview on the price transparency rule. Initially, it was first brought up in the Accountable Care Act many years ago, and then it was last fall that Secretary Azar put into effect the final rule, which will go live this January 1st of 2021. And the price transparency rule, there's two really big critical components of that rule. The first being that hospitals have to post a machine readable file online that holds all of their gross charges and then the discounted price, cash price for those charges, as well as payer specific rates for each of those charges, and then the minimum maximum that those payer contracts have. We have to be able to put that file up online, and they want it pretty close to your account homepage, if not on the homepage, so it's easily accessible. And that file on its own, I don't know that patients are ever going to want to engage with that. It certainly checks the box from a requirement perspective for transparency as far as the pricing is out there, but certainly not really useful for the patient. And so that comes to really the second portion of that rule, which is that CMS is requiring 300 consumer-friendly shoppable services, 70 that they mandate be included, 230 at your discretion, that need to be posted online. You can do that, or you can provide an internet-based price estimation tool, and they will consider that requirement as having been met. And so between all of that, right, the real goal that CMS is looking for here is to try and engage patients and bring some transparency to it. And in our opinion here at Wixcorp, the goal is not met by just posting 300 shoppable services and a machine readable file. That's really not that engaging. And so, to be perfectly honest, this is something that wasn't really on our radar for a really long time until one of our current clients came to us and they said, hey, this is a compliance that we need to meet with this, and we've been shopping around looking for good tools to help us with this, and we're finding that either A, they're way too expensive. This particular client partner of ours was a critical access hospital here in Utah, and they said they're just charging outrageous dollar amounts for what's needing to be done. Or the other problem too being they're just not that usable. They're clunky and annoying and frustrating and would be difficult for a patient to navigate and figure out. And so they came to us and asked if we would please help them build a solution that would be more like the rest of our Red ecosystem, that really has a strong patient focus. We really try to make tools that are simple to access, intuitive to use, and engaging to interact with. And so they were looking for a price estimation tool that would meet that criteria because they didn't want to pay the non-compliance penalty, right? So there is the $300 per day penalty, so $109,000 annually if you're not in compliance with this. Which it's kind of funny. Most of the quotes that our client partner had received, I think they were basing their pricing off of the $109,000 annually. So they figured, well, if you're having to pay $109,000 annually, then you should be more than happy to pay us $50,000 or $30,000 annually or whatever it might be. And so they're really struggling with that pricing. So we can talk about pricing at the end, but I guess from here, we'd really like to just jump right over and start looking at the estimation tool itself. So let me pull that up, and we can start by talking a little bit about the estimator. First and foremost, with this tool, we want to make sure that patients are able to navigate to this quickly and easily, and that when they do get here, that there's no question that this is part of your institution and the right tool that they were looking for. So to do that, everything on the web page we're showing right now is customizable to your organization. As part of the initial get up and go process, we would get your color schemes, your logoing, all of that look and feel, so that when they navigate to this page, it looks very similar and has a similar feel to your native website. And we'd work very closely with you on that. We'd also want to make sure that we put links on your website that would redirect the patient to this page. Once they get here, we have a couple of options that the patient can choose from. First, we'll show a list of locations that they can get pricing for. This would be maybe you have your critical care access, maybe you have a couple of affiliated physician offices that are part of your network as well that are out there. If you have multiple locations that you have separate charge masters for and separate rates for, or you want to be showing separate things, we can segregate that out for you. Again, just trying to help make it easy for the patient to self-service their way through this estimator. And so we will show them the multiple locations. And if you just have one location, that's absolutely fine as well. We'll just show the one. We do show at the bottom then this pricing file download. Again, to meet compliance, we have to be able to put up a machine readable file for you. And this is where we would locate that, and we would base it by facility per requirements. And so if we have multiple tax ID numbers that have different charges, we would want to list those all here so the patient can download those. We post them in a CSV file so they can be quickly and easily used if need be. And that's probably the last we're going to talk about the machine readable file, because patients don't read files, right? They want something a little bit more intuitive and engaging to play with. And so we've got the estimator here. So the first thing that the patient would do is they can select the location that they're interested in. Once they've selected the location, we found that we can segregate the patient population using the tool into two kind of key segments. The first being, I'm strictly cash price, I don't have insurance, I'm just trying to find a rate. Versus those who, I'd like a more personalized rate, I do have insurance, I'd like you to factor that in. And so we want to try and put a fork in the road right at the very beginning to separate those two, to try and make it as quick and easy to navigate through as possible. So let's start with a cash estimate here. So if they click on a cash estimate, then we're going to take them to a lookup field. And there's a search box here that they can type in. They can type in a CPT code, they can type in a HCPCS code, they can type in a description, so like MRI or hip or arm or things like that, and we'll filter the list down for them based on that search criteria. However, often patients aren't quite sure the exact terminology that they are looking for, or they don't know the CPT code or HCPCS code that they're looking for. And so we provide these quick pick tiles to try and make it a little bit easier to navigate through. So if they want to list a common procedure up here, and these are customizable to your organization, and we can list whichever common procedures you would like. We can talk about these a little bit more in a minute, but we can list kind of those grouped services at the top, or we can give them some more basic categories to choose from to try and narrow down that list a little bit quicker and easier. So for this example, maybe they select respiratory. We're then going to filter the list to those respiratory items that we have in the system. And then from these, they can select the one that they're interested in, and it's going to take them to the estimate. And so from here, you can see that we kind of bring the information along for them. So this was for Lake Town Hospital, self-pay for this particular code, and it's going to be $4,500. And let's talk a little bit about verbiage here for a minute. So from a patient engagement perspective, what we've found is that when you're giving an estimate, if you tell a patient this is going to be $50.05, right? If it comes back at $52, they're going to get upset. And so we want to try and mitigate the variances that might happen in that estimate. And so one of the key things that we've found patients actually respond to and understand very well is if we list the cost starts at. So it can be as low as, right? So the estimate costs start at $4,500 for this particular procedure. We also can then list custom disclaimers for each code. And we'd work with you to decide if those are needed or not and on which codes are needed or not. But you can put disclaimers like this doesn't include the physician fees that would be associated with this, or maybe the anesthesiologist is billed separately, or things like that. Again, we'd work with you to list those specific elements. And then off to the right, we're going to show what are the payment options available. And this is also, again, based off of your payment policies. So as part of the initial setup process, we'd work with you to identify what are all of the different payment policies and parameters that you have. And then we would list those for the patient based specifically on the estimate they received. So if the dollar amount came back as $100, you probably aren't going to want to list 12, 9, and 6 month payment time for $100, right? Maybe you only want to list 1 or 2 months for a payment plan. If you have early pay discounts, we can be listing that. If they pay upfront, this would be the discount. And if you wanted to charge interest along the way, so if you had interest charges that needed to apply on specific plans, we could be listing that as well. The important part here is the main reason patients are doing a price estimation is because they're shopping around, right? They want to understand how much this costs and potentially looking at, well, maybe if I drive the extra 45 minutes to head to this other hospital, it will be cheaper. And so we want to make sure that we are showing them the lowest price that we can. So that's why we're showing the estimate cost starts at. And then we're going to give those payment plan options because we really want them to understand if you can't afford to pay this out of pocket, there are options that are available to you. Again, trying to help them be able to really know here's a true example of exactly what this might cost me. When patients are doing an estimate as well, often it could drive questions, things like that. There always needs to be a call to action on this page. In this case, it's if you have questions, contact this number, and we can have that direct towards whatever phone number you wanted, whether it's your billing team or patient financial services or registration or however we'd want to list that. We also give this section here at the bottom that's going to give your specific terms and conditions for using the estimator. We have some sample ones here. Usually your legal team is going to have a specific way they want certain things said, just depending on how conservative or liberally they interpret the privacy policies and your particular policies. And so we would work with you to make sure that we're showing the right disclaimers here, as well as the terms of use and all of that fun stuff. Before we get into what it looks like if we're checking with using insurance or getting into some of the scheduling options, now is probably a good point to pause just for a minute. Jeff, have we had any questions come through or anything in the Q&A that we need to discuss?
Not so far. Pretty quiet group so far.
All right. Well, I'm going to jump on then to the insurance section, and we'll walk through that. While we're doing so, again, anybody on the call, if you have questions, please feel free to be putting those in so that we can take care of them towards the end. So I'm going to jump back to the beginning of the estimation here, and we're going to select another facility. So we'll select our hospital here. And this time, instead of going the cash estimate route, let's look at what it'd be if we wanted to do insurance. So I'm going to click on the using my insurance here, and we're going to give them a drop-down menu. And this drop-down menu, they can select whatever insurance they might have. We just have a handful here in the example. But the purpose of this would be is we're working with you to build out all of the charge master data from you and getting all of your insurance contractual rates. Any insurance company that we include a pricing for in your charge master that would be on that machine readable file, we would also be showing that insurance here for the patient to be able to select and use for that specific insurance carrier's contracted rates with you. If they wanted to continue by just selecting the generic, I have Aetna, and let me just move forward with that, they can continue, click this continue to prices and come right to that same pick list that we were showing earlier. However, I'm going to come back here. If you would like to, we also have the ability to do real-time insurance verification checking for you so that we can give a true custom price quote to the patient. And to do that, they can click on the personalize my charges, and we're going to ask them just a handful of questions here. So just contact information and insurance around the insurance carrier and the insurance plan that they have, just enough so that we can then send this out and check. And we've actually partnered with a fantastic company named AccuReg to help manage this insurance verification process. So when we click verify insurance, it's going to run through the AccuReg system, and it's going to return back for that specific carrier. Excellent, that's for United Healthcare for this patient. Here's the information you put in, and then we're going to return back the deductible. And this is going to be a critical component for the future price. So we'll show them here's your deductible. We'll also show them all of the other benefits that are sent over as part of that AccuReg verification process, just so the patient is able to take a look and view all of that. From here, once we've selected the insurance information, you can click on the lookup pricing, and it's going to bring us back to this pricing page. From this pricing page, they can go through that same process of selecting either one of the common procedure codes, or they can do a lookup, just so that we can see the same thing from cash pricing. I'm going to go back to respiratory, and I'm going to choose the same code that we chose last time. But notice this time when we get the estimate, it comes back that it's at $1,800 instead of $4,500. The reason being, if we look at the top, this is for the hospital facility, but now we have United Healthcare Insurance for Emma for that same code. And so we can see that the code original cost is $4,500. However, 15 of that has to go towards the patient's deductible. And then the insurance contractual rates and coverage information tell us that insurance is going to cover $2,700 after that. So then the balance remaining after insurance is $300. So putting the two together is the aggregate left out of patient responsibility, which is going to be that $1,800, right? So total minimum that you will pay is $1,800. And again, we give that your cost starts at $1,800. If the patient would like to, they can click on the insurance benefits section here to expand that out to view the information we used to create that estimate. And they can print this screen if they would like to for their records. And again, we're going to show them those payment options that are there available for them. So here's another good stop point. Jeff, any questions that have come through as we've walked through the insurance process?
Actually, a couple of good questions that have popped up. Here's the first one. What about if the compliance regulations change? How would that affect this program?
Excellent question. So if there's a compliance change, so let's say that they come out and they say that the machine readable file format needs additional data elements included in it, things like that. Those are really easy things that we can change, and we'd work with you to adjust accordingly. Where we don't have a crystal ball, we don't know everything that's coming down from CMS. We can't predict everything that would come through, but as they make those changes, if there are additional requirements that need to be met, we absolutely would work with each of our client partners to make sure that those requirements get met by our estimation tool. The only thing that we can't predict is if they say it's no longer required or things like that, right? But we definitely would work with each of our institutions based off whatever those requirement changes might be. So while we're contracted with you, we need to help make that, we need to help keep you compliant, and we take that trust in us very seriously. So thank you, that's a great question.
And this is a question to add on to that. Is that included in part of that cost there of what we do?
Yeah, so as part of the get up and go price, our costs, which we'll talk about costs at the end of this, but we would certainly take, and we're going to work with you to create, to gather all that data and make sure that all the data is posted up online and ready to go. And then from that, we would drive all of the estimator. If there are changes, so let's say that you have some price changes that you want to make to the estimator, or maybe there's some new compliance elements that came out that you want to add a couple of additional service types or things like that. All of those updates, we can talk about the file process and kind of the technical pieces in a moment, but being able to maintain and update pricing is a pretty simple thing. The rule requires a minimum of once a year to be updating pricing. We recommend doing at least that, if not more like it twice a year or quarterly, but we'd work with you to make those updates as you need them.
Great. The next question we have is, what kind of support is available?
You bet. So there's multiple layers of support from the patient's perspective, because again, we want to start there. From the patient side, as they're using the tool, if they have questions, if they have needs, again, we want to be posting a contact number there. The intent would be this is the institution's contact, so they're talking and working with you. However, for you as the institution, if you have questions, you have needs, you need support. So things like, we hired a new person and we'd like to train them on how to do this, or we have some questions around how the estimator's pulling things in, or we need to update pricing, things like that. Our fee structure covers all of that support and maintenance. So if you have issues with any of that, absolutely reach out to us. So things like you've updated your website and need to update the links leading to the estimator. You've updated your logo, you wanted to update the file that's driving all of this. All of that's included in our base pricing. So again, great question. Thank you.
All right. Here's another question just came in. Can you talk about security, and then after that, the time and IT requirements for implementation?
Absolutely. So security was actually the easiest part of everything that we've done on this. So as I mentioned early on, we have our kind of flagship platform, Red, that has all those different components. And because Red is working with financials in healthcare, with communication, it means we're checking a lot of security boxes. So things like TCPA, PCI compliance, HIPAA compliance, high-tech compliance, so on. And so our larger flagship system meets all of those requirements. We do third-party penetration testing and certifications and all that fun stuff. So this estimator tool falls under that umbrella of all of that security that we already have in place and existing. However, keep in mind the estimator itself cannot be behind a login. Patients have to be able to access, and that's part of the requirements of the estimator in the final transparency rule. Patients have to be able to access this without a username and password, And so security around accessing this is minimal from a who can view things, because we want patients to be able to come in and view all of these elements. We do put security around patients can't access the admin side of the house, right, where we're actually maintaining the files and keeping all that updated. But we do keep everything around the URL itself protected, so that the file that you're giving us, we keep that in an encrypted database. All of this is cloud-based, so we host it out of Microsoft Azure Cloud, and you're sitting behind all that security and compliance as well. So from a security perspective, I think we're pretty comfortable in being able to provide everything you need there. For the IT requirements to get this up and going, it's actually pretty light on the IT side of the house. We did that intentionally. All that your IT department would need to do is add a link on your existing website that redirects them to this website. From here, we manage all of the SSL certifications and everything else to keep this site secure for you. And your IT team doesn't have to do any of the maintenance on it. For the implementation portion of it, the hardest work really is getting a copy of your charge master and all of the data from your contractuals. And we'd work very closely with you on that, but the biggest lift for you as an institution would be compiling that information. And we have a lot of things that we can do to help you with that. But at the end of the day, it's your data, you own that data, and you have that data, and we need to work with you on getting access to those data elements so that we can drive the estimator from that. So hopefully that answered the question. If not, feel free to put another one in the queue.
All right. Another question that's in here. Is this available as a standalone, but does it work better with your other products or tools, or is this a lesser version?
Great question. So this is not a lesser version. It actually would be a lot more work if we wanted to have multiple versions out there. So it's kind of anathema to what we try to do as an organization. This is a standalone tool. Everything that you see that we've been demoing here would come with it. However, we did build it as part of that larger patient financial experience ecosystem. So this tool does integrate really well into the other suite of services that we offer. So patients could be able to do things like save their insurance on file. They could log in and view that insurance on file already into here, so they wouldn't have to pre-enter those things. There's lots of different elements that we can do to help just make it a smoother and better experience for your patients as part of that broader RED ecosystem, but that is not required.
Excellent. That's all the questions that have come in so far. One that we get that sometimes is a little hairy is what is, you mentioned the charge master and that process. What does it look like to go through that process to get the charge master and get all the information in here in a way that we can use it?
Yeah, that is a question we get frequently. So one of the things that we've done to try and make that as easy as possible is we've built some tools on our side to try and help along the way. And so if you're able to get an export from your EMR, so maybe you're on Cerner Community Works or NextGen or Meditech or Athena or something like that, just getting an Excel file download of that charge master database to us is a huge step in the right direction. From that, we can automatically populate the machine readable file and get at least the basics in there. And then from there, it's just a matter of getting all of your contractual information. So generally what we find is that out of all of your major payers, the majority will be just the percent of charges. So you'll be able to tell us for our local Blue Cross, it's 10%, for Cigna, it's 12%, for Athena, it's Aetna, I mean, it's 15%, whatever it might be, right? And then maybe you have some specific carve outs of you know, for Blue Cross, it's 10% of charges except for these 10 codes. It's the regular price. There's no discount there. We would work with you you would just need to give us that information. So here's the name of the insurance, here's the contractual percent of charges rate, and here's my carve outs. From that, we would be able to create everything that you need to be able to run all of this. So you wouldn't have to go create a huge Excel file. You wouldn't have to add all those pieces. We would just need the export and then all of that contractual information. And then we would pick it up for you from there, and we would compile it all. We'd put the machine readable format together. We would upload it into the estimator for you. We'd get all of that set up for you. So the biggest part is just getting all of that contractual information. If you have a file already that you track all that in, fantastic. Send us that. It'll make it a lot easier. If not, then it'll take us, a little bit of time, however long for you to get it to us. From an implementation perspective, as soon as we have that file from you, the charge master file, and as soon as we have all of your contractual information, once those two data sets are made available to us, we can have the estimator deployed for you in a matter of weeks. Certainly if we're contracting with you in the month of October, and then you're able to get us all of the data in November, we'll have it live for you in December. So that's generally what we're telling people right now, is just to give yourself a month to find it. We know that you have lots of other projects that you're working on, especially as we come to the end of the year. We recommend trying to get it to us before the holidays, right? So if you can get the charge master to us and you can get all your contractual rates to us before Thanksgiving, you'll be doing just fine, and we'll have you up and running.
Okay, that's all the questions that we have in here. So I think we've used our half hour here pretty good, I think.
We have. Just in the last few minutes here, we do want to talk about, so one of the views that we have when we look at patient estimation is it's just one step in the patient acquisition process. We want to move them from, I'm interested, I'm getting an estimate from you, and we want to move them from there to setting up an appointment. And so one of the kind of natural bundles from our larger ecosystem that really makes sense to include with the estimation process is the online schedule request. And just briefly what that process looks like is we've got this schedule procedure button here. When they click that, that's going to bring them to a schedule request. And we're going to bring over all of their estimate information that they've done so far. And then we'll ask them what days work best for you. When's going to be the best? And so they can select, maybe Monday in the morning, Tuesday afternoon, and anytime Wednesday works really well for me in my schedule. And then they can submit that, and we're going to confirm information. So we'll populate what we do know about them, and then they can type in specific information around what they're trying to schedule. I really prefer Wednesdays at 2 if possible. So they can leave whatever information they want and submit that. And we'll give them a confirmation of that submission and then a custom message that you want to show them. So whether it be we'll contact you within 1 business day or someone will be back with you shortly, whatever you'd like to list there. But when they submit this, it populates to an internal work list that your scheduling and registration team would have access to. So anytime there's a schedule request, it would populate onto this list. From here, you can assign it to specific departments or individuals to work with on getting that scheduled. And then as you do get it scheduled, you can mark the status as complete and it'll drop off the active list. But we would give reporting and analytics around all those schedule requests so that way you're reducing leakage. So that if they're coming to estimation, we want to really have them just naturally flow right into let's set up an appointment and get this done. And so that's one of the additional add-ons that we can provide as part of the broader ecosystem that really makes sense to bundle with patient estimation. Now, obviously, if that's not something that you wanted as a part of it, those links wouldn't be available in that estimation process. But we recommend that you do just because it makes a better patient experience. But that, again, that's one of those add-ons which just segue kind of nicely into, let's pull up as one of our final elements here, the pricing. In the spirit of a price estimator, we want to bring that transparency to what it would cost you as well. And so the way that we do our cost structure, it's $2,500 to get it all built. And so that's all of the work with your IT department to make sure the links are set up correctly. That's deploying the software. That's working with you to get all the data elements together, creating the master file, creating the machine readable file format, and then deploying all of this solution with your custom logoing and color schemes and all that fun stuff. So that $2,500, you're getting actually a pretty big bang for the buck. My deployment team has told me we're way undercharging for that, but I think it's a good thing to do because we're coming up towards the end of the year, and we know that you need these tools very quickly. So we want to try and help you with that. And then we have an annual fee of $7,500 for the estimator. We don't charge additional for the machine readable file. We have to create that anyway as part of creating the estimator for you. So we'll post that for you. So if all you wanted was the base estimator, it's going to be $10,000 the first year and then $7,500 for each year after that. There's no additional fees for support or maintenance or service calls or anything like that. We'll continue to maintain the platform for you. That $7,500 annually covers all of those needs. The additional enhancements that bundle with this as well, we talked about the real-time insurance validation. If you want that as part of the platform as well, it's an additional $2,500 annually to have that activated, and then 25 cents per lookup. Now, I will say on that per lookup price, let's say a patient goes in and they check 10 or 15 different codes. We're going to save the insurance from the first lookup. We're not going to charge you for the 10 or 15 other times they keep looking things up, and we'll keep that insurance on record for the calendar month. Just because we found that insurance companies really don't make any changes between the middle of the month. They really, at the beginning of the month is when everything switches over. And so we would save that estimate. So if the patient comes in over 2 or 3 days even, and they're looking at estimates, it would still just be that initial check that we're using. That tool would also be available for your administrative team. So if your billing department or registration teams wanted to come in to use the estimator, they wanted to check insurance or verify its activity and coverage rates, they could do that as well. And then that final piece is that schedule requests. So if you'd like to bundle online schedule requests with the broader platform, we can plug the two together and deploy it all together at one. And that would be $6,000 annually for that component. So with that, probably another good pause point here. Any other questions or anything that attendees would like to know about either the scheduling or the pricing or the estimator or anything like that?
You have done such an amazing job of explaining everything that we have no new questions.
Excellent. Well, we'll give everybody, maybe 15 to 20 seconds here to type something if they need it. But if there are no other questions, again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us about price estimation and our Price Estimator tool. We would love to talk to you more about it. If you have questions, you're welcome to contact us either by emailing us at the sales@wixcorp.com. You're welcome to call us or go to our LinkedIn page and you can message us there. But thank you again for coming in. We really appreciate your time and hope that you have a fantastic week.
We do have one more question real quick. How large of a hospital does this apply to? Additional for clinics or separate surgery centers?
Yep, so this is geared primarily towards critical access hospitals, and so the pricing there would encompass all of the critical access hospitals' needs. So if you have the hospital and multiple small area clinics and things like that, all of that would be covered under this. If it's for a larger health system where they're doing multiple hospitals, multiple specialties and clinics and offices and things like that, we would need to sit down and look at your specific situation. There would be some additional pricing there just because we'd have to break out quite a bit of things to make it work for all of your different needs across the whole spectrum of the health system. But the pricing we showed here for critical access hospitals and small health systems and medical groups, that should cover all of your needs. So great question. Thank you. Any others come through?
That's all we've got.
Excellent. Well, with that, thank you all again so much for coming. We really appreciate your time and wish you a great rest of the week. Take care.